Oh my gosh. Tough questions that he's asking here. Hello friends, it's LC. Welcome to my channel. If you are new and if you are returning, welcome back. Friends, D-Day has arrived and I'm excited today to be reacting to the two new music videos from Agust D's D-Day album, which are People Part 2 and Haegeum. Yoongi is my alt bias, so when I found out that this new album was coming out, I absolutely lost my poop. D2 holds a very special place in my heart because it came out on my birthday at the beginning of the pandemic. So I'm very much hopeful that this album will also hold a special place in my heart. So let's get to these music videos, shall we? But before we do, please don't forget to give this video a like if you enjoy it and subscribe to my channel.
A few moments later.
So for today's beverage of the day, in order of our watermelon shuga, I am enjoying some watermelon sparkling water from President's Choice to help keep our thirst quenched throughout these videos. Watermelon-y. Also, before I filmed this, I unboxed my D-Day album and pulled what I think is my favorite photo card of all time. Like, not even just ones that I own, like that I've ever seen, which is Yoongi with some fat stacks. And I made a point of like moving this out of the way because I'm terrified if I spilled my water that it would get on this card, because this must be protected at all costs. But all right, first here we are going to get into People Part 2 featuring IU. Now, the first IU collaboration was a banger. It was just like so heartwarming, you know, just like, oh, 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 oh. So I'm excited to see what we get for this video. Is it going to be another like heartwarming one? Especially because this is People Part 2. So we're going to do a blind react first, and then we're going to look up some information about People Part 2 because I'm curious to see how this is a sequel to People from D2. Especially what IU is going to bring to the mix. I'm sure somewhere Jungkook is very jealous that Yoongi got to collaborate with IU not once but twice. So let's go with People Part 2. Those hands though. Had to start with that, didn't you? Ooh. Like R&B type song. All English. Wasn't loved enough as a kid. Oh no. And then that yellow cardigan. Oh, I'm so soft. Oh my goodness. Trying not to actively melt into a puddle. So who's gone? No, not a dog. Oh my goodness, this is so beautiful. And this house is like aesthetic goals. I don't know where it is, but I want to live there. The dread that's so daunting. Really have to dig into the lyrics after this. Oh my god, no! This is so devastating. He just like looks so ethereal in this, even more than usual. And all his cardigans. Yeah, I really want to live in his house, I must say.
사랑의 끝은 과연 무엇일까 수많은 사람 스쳐간 사람 사랑은 사랑으로 완벽할까 그래 말야 이타적인 게 어쩌면 되려 이기적인
Yeah, I'm really excited to dig into these lyrics.
말은 건 내 욕심이기에 욕심을 버리면 행복해지고 채우지 못한 반쪽짜리 허상 삶은 저항과 복종 사이의 싸움이라는데 내가 보기에는 외로움들과의 싸움이
Oh my gosh.
터져나오면 그대 울어도 돼 당신은 사랑받기에도 이미 충분한데
So many like existential things that he's questioning here. Is this like Jeju Island maybe? Holy cow. Just him and his popper pal. Oh my goodness, that went by so quickly.
뭐 사람들한테 전달하고 싶은 이야기도 있지만 나 자신한테 이야기를 하는 것처럼 들린다라는 이야기를 많이 들었거든요. 사실이기도 하고요. 그때 당시에 코로나로 여러 가지 것들을 할 수 없을 때
This was written a while ago.
굉장히 모든 것을 잃어버렸다라고 생각을
No.
했을 때
But that's such a relatable feeling though.
나 자신한테 되게 해주고 싶었던 이야기였습니다.
Huh. Okay, so he made it easy for us and told us really what the meaning and the purpose of the song was. But, you know, it's so relatable to what he was experiencing because it doesn't matter if you're an international superstar or just a regular person. Like, everyone had that feeling of losing something during the pandemic and feeling like something was lost. Yeah, so he created People Part 2 in 2020 while working on his second mixtape as Agust D. And the song was conceived while thinking about how others would receive his music as Agust D. So he was actually a little bit worried about releasing music under this name that he talked about in an interview with Billboard. So wanting to sync the person Suga and Agust D and bridge his mixtape with his official solo album, he knew he needed to make a very pop song and chose to feature IU, whom he felt played an important part in making the song feel less intense and more pop focused. And this was completed before D2 was finished, and it remained unreleased for 3 years. And then in terms of the lyrics, it focuses on connection and fighting loneliness. Though Suga has stated that both songs are not that different, as everybody can feel pain and agonized. Yeah, like I was saying, it doesn't matter who you are, we can all have that universal experience. Whether it's me from BTS, Suga, Minyogi, or Agust D, I always have that inside me too. People might see me as someone who wouldn't have any concerns or worries, or that I don't feel agony, but I feel those emotions too. I'm trying to find a way to fight those and overcome those too. I just wanted to show that I am this humane person. I'm just a human. And I feel like sometimes that's easy to forget with these idols who just seem like perfect, you know, perfect skin, perfect outfit, perfect dance moves, perfect voices, like perfect everything. It can be so easy to forget that they are just people like you and me, and that they too have strong emotions and struggles. But just like from the very beginning, his words just hit me in the feels, saying, "What is it that I love? Wasn't loved enough as a kid. That's why I'm the cautious type. I wanted a sincere connection with others," which, you know, is kind of implying that he doesn't have a sincere connection with others, or maybe doesn't have as many connections as he would like, or that maybe he doesn't have the type of connection that he would like. Forever something like a sand castle. It comes crumbling down at the calmest of waves. What is it about loss that makes us so sad? Really, it's the dread that makes us so sad. That's true, and it feels kind of like odd because, you know, when you're mourning somebody, you're mourning their death that happened in the past, but what you're really mourning is a future without them. So like, that's deep, Yoongi. That's deep. And, you know, when he's saying too far away, you're gone, it's, you know, kind of like he was saying, it seems like he's talking to himself, like his previous self that he's missing and mourning. And, you know, we're the ones who tore down the sand castle of like, we were not prepared for a disaster of this magnitude, so we don't have anyone to blame other than ourselves. And oh, this really hurts. They say there are no winners or losers in this game, but I'm always the loser. If Min Yoon-gi is a loser, what does that make me? What does that make all of us? I don't want to know. And I like this line of selflessness can actually be selfish too. It's true. Of like, when you are performing a selfless act, it really like makes you happy to do that thing. So is it truly selfless? Tough questions that he's asking here. It's actually my greed when I say that it's all for you. Will I be happy if I give up my greed? A half illusion that can never be fulfilled. So it's like, it makes me happy to make my fans happy. So isn't that me being greedy? And kind of like a vicious cycle. And yeah, this part just so got me. They say life's a struggle between resistance and submission. I say it's a struggle against loneliness. If you can't hold it back, it's okay to cry. You're already more than enough to be loved. Like, how can you say you're greedy when you say things like that? Especially with that like ending scene of him explaining the meaning of the song and just like the amount of comfort that it brings me to just like hear his voice. Like, it wouldn't even matter if there were no subtitles. Like, I would still feel just so calm and at peace just like hearing him speak. His voice is just so soothing for some reason. And that's really just like Yoongi's effect. He is truly a cat, where it's just like, the world might hate me, but my cat will never hate me, even though my cat might seem grumpy sometimes. He just has this way of making you feel like understood and heard. And I know that this song was his way of like expressing his own thoughts and his own fears, but I'm sure that he knows like the average person is going through the exact same type of thing, especially during the pandemic, where we were all kind of put back to our most like basic survival mode in a way. So I hope he doesn't feel like guilty at all for any of these feelings, because we are right there with him and his art just brings us so much joy. So I feel very appreciative to have Agust D, Suga, Yoongi, whatever you would like to call him, in my life. Also, shout out to IU. She added a certain je ne sais quoi to the song. Like Yoongi said, kind of like softening up the edges a little bit. But okay, I think we're gonna be switching gears a little bit with the music video for Haegeum, because from the limited things that I've seen, you know, I always, whenever I see a spoiler or I'm about to see a spoiler, just swipe away so fast. But I did see that he had the scar over his eye. So are we going to be getting a sequel or potentially a prequel or another part of the story from the Pt.2 music video, especially since a Haegeum is a traditional Korean string instrument resembling a vertical fiddle with two strings. So, you know, kind of like Pt.2 with that being the royal procession music, we also have another kind of traditional music instrument here. So are we going to get more badassery from Agust D here? Let's watch. Back on the streets, but not the same ones as before. This looks like modern day. Just like little callbacks here and there already. But
Yeah.
ooh.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Ooh. Oh my goodness. Yoongi just taking over. Get on board. Song's a new Haegeum, so it's like freedom? Oh, the scar. It looks like it's healed almost. Badass Agust D. Smoking. Differentiate freedom from self-indulgence. Oh. Run! Reminds me of the dance that he did with the head in Dechita. My goodness. Is this his lair? This is actually such a bop. Oh my goodness, hold on. Let me go back here. Maybe we do it to ourselves. Slaves to capitalism. Slaves to money, slaves to hatred and prejudice, slaves to YouTube, slaves to flexing. Selfishness and greed have gone off the rails. Like, oh my gosh, spit. Yeah, you could just like popping off in this one. The many versions of himself. So it's a rebirth. Wow. Oh my goodness. Oh, the callbacks. So he's freeing himself from this previous version of himself. Oh my goodness. I can't get over all of these callbacks. Like when he's out the window in Dechita. Oh, just casually getting out of the cop car. That's fine. Wow. Just eats with this. Just eats with the chopsticks like it's nothing. Like he didn't just stab somebody with them. Oh my gosh, that just like absolutely exceeded my expectations in every single way. Not just like with the music video, but also with the song, with the lyrics, with the meaning behind the lyrics. Like, oh my gosh, okay, we must dive in. But first of all, it seems like Haegeum, even though, you know, it's like an instrument, it seems like it's also serving as some kind of metaphor for like a rebirth, or, you know, being freed from these chains that he's talking about throughout the video, like, you know, being a slave to money, being a slave to capitalism. He's very much like a raging against the machine here, and I'm here for it. Yeah, like I'm reading here an article from Rolling Stone says, take the double entendre title of the thundering Haegeum, which wraps around a drone from the two-stringed traditional Korean instrument of the same name. Haegeum also can be translated as liberation, and Agust D unpacks that idea in naughty spat-out rhymes that take aim at conformity, the trappings of success, and information overload. So yeah, let's dive in a little bit closer, shall we? Starting out in a very similar type of shot to how we started out with Dechita, where we're in a market, but just a different market, and he's kind of got his like gang of dudes like he had in Dechita as well. But in Haegeum, rather than it being like the king, it's more so the mob boss that he is destroying. And the songs of Haegeum get on board now, this lively rhythm. Perhaps this could be a new kind of Haegeum, which again is kind of similar to the Dechita chorus of, you know, the Dechita play it loud, of the music being the symbol for his status, or in Dechita is like, I'm the king, and here it's, this is my rebirth, this is my freedom, my liberation. Oh wait, mob boss. Hold on. But he's in a police station. So is he a cop? Is he a detective? He looked like a mob boss. Like what? What cop wears like a black suit and tie? That confused me, but okay, sure. Maybe cops wear suits and ties in Korea. So he says interpretation is free for all. Out with the nonsense. Freedom of expression could be reason for someone's death. If your convictions are reflected in your judgment and speculations, and you believe that your freedom is on the same level as others is, then don't hesitate, just get on board. It kind of makes me think of like how a lot of idols, you don't necessarily hear them saying anything controversial or sharing any potentially controversial opinions. And I bet a lot of times they can feel silenced. So I'm curious if that's kind of what he's referencing here, especially because, you know, he's like smoking in this, and it made me think back to there was like footage somewhere of V smoking a cigarette, and for some reason that was like an issue and a thing. But then this line comes up of you must remember to differentiate freedom from self-indulgence, so not go overboard. And in a way it almost makes me think back to like child stars of, you know, whether it's like Disney or something like that. As soon as they become an adult, it's almost like they want to do all the things that they were never allowed to do and tend to like overindulge. And while, you know, it doesn't happen to like every child star out there, it's one of those things of like you almost want what you can't have. And like he's really going in on some of these topics, like endless influx of information prohibits freedom of imagination and seeks conformity of thought, which is like a lot to unpack in one sentence. So endless influx of information, okay, got that. Prohibits freedom of imagination, I guess just when there's so much thrown at you on the internet or, you know, in life based on, you know, 24-hour news cycle, et cetera, it's easier for our brain to just like go with people tell us and accept what people tell us as truth rather than, you know, investigate further and form our own opinions. And all the controversy incessantly triggers confusion and judgment. And then, of course, this line, which is like iconic: slaves to capitalism, slaves to money, slaves to hatred and prejudice, slaves to YouTube, slaves to flexing. Selfishness and greed have gone off the rails. He's pointing out how we're living in like an individualistic world these days where like the self is the most important thing, where it's like, I must look amazing on social media, I must present my best self, I must have the nicest things, I must have the most amount of friends, and that being like the highest measure of self-worth, when it really should be, you know, like the things that we do and the way that we treat people and how we give back to the world rather than the things that we have, like the things we give rather than the things that we take. And then opinions clearly split depending on what's to gain. It seems like, you know, politics or whatever just gets more and more divisive these days. Everyone's been blinded by envy and jealousy without realizing that they're putting shackles on each other. Like the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the author that wrote that book said that, you know, there's an 8th habit, which is actually like giving back to the world, because it's hard for people to feel authentically happy, like real true happiness, without contributing to their community and being part of something greater than themselves. And so that's what it kind of feels like when he's saying we're putting shackles on each other, is like we're limiting ourselves and we're making ourselves unhappy by, you know, trying to look the best or have the nicest things and make people around us jealous, and having like our jealousy and envy of others drive our decision making. So is this photo card like right before he set the stacks on fire? Can you imagine if this was just like the meme instead of like the little girl with the house on fire, but instead it's Yoongi with the stack of cash on fire? I would pay good money for that photo card. So then, okay, if Yoongi with the suit is actually a cop and not some kind of like mob boss, has he kind of like gone to the dark side in terms of, you know, torturing him rather than just like putting him away? And it's the power that he's found in his newfound freedom that allows like criminal Yoongi to just like poof, shoot cop, conform to the rules Yoongi. Man, this is so amazing. And even just like the color palette is similar to Daechita, and in both it's kind of the challenging authority version of himself that kills the authority version of himself. So yeah, this was freaking iconic, and I enjoyed like every second of both songs. And it's such a different vibe for both of these songs because, People Part 2 feels very introspective, and then Haegeum is more of like a criticism of society and how he fits into that externally. So it's like one's internal, one's more external in terms of his identity. So this makes me very, very excited to listen to the rest of this album. I don't think that I'm going to do a reaction and I'm just going to listen to it in my own time, but if you would like to see a reaction to the album or any other content that was released around this new album, then please let me know down in the comments. But friends, thank you so much for joining me for this reaction. I really enjoyed this, so I hope that you did too. And I also want to give a thank you to my patrons who make all of my videos happen. My patrons have access to weekly exclusive reactions, as well as my YouTube schedule for the month and behind the scenes content. And then my $5 patrons have early access to my YouTube videos, the ability to vote on the content of a YouTube video once per month, and a shout out at the end of every single one of my YouTube videos. So an extra special thank you to my $5 patrons, who are Abby, Zaye Life, Catherine W, Catherine H, Chris Mary R, Desiree, MJN, Aaron M, Grace T, Hope to Dust, Jazzberry, Jennifer O, Kirsten, Kit Kat, Chris M, Kulisek, Leah B, Miriam S, Raindrop, Sandy W, Sophia S, Tiffers, and Vicos. If you would like to enjoy some exclusive content as well as support my channel, then you can visit me at patreon.com/laurenclaire. But until my next video, I hope you are doing well, staying safe, taking care of yourself, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.